I have made it to day 4 of the 100-day project, and today I'm going to be painting raspberries. The first thing that I'm doing is very lightly sketching out my outlines, my image outlines, with a pencil on top of my watercolor paper. And I have a few reference images up on my computer in front of me that I'm using, and it's kind of a hodgepodge of different images that I'm drawing on real life photos of raspberries for this painting. And what I wanted to do was really just get a wide variety of elements from the raspberry plant without it being too real. I almost wanted it to be like a scientific drawing as opposed to a recreation of a photo that somebody's taken of a raspberry bush. So what I've done is I've mixed up a bunch of pinky, reddy, maroon colors as well as a bunch of different greens so that I can have all my colors ready beforehand. And then also I wanted to make sure that I had a lot of different values. So lighter, darker. I also have some greens that have more yellow in it. My reds have, some of it has a little bit of purple. So I just wanted to make sure that I had a lot of variety so that I could get the shading and everything the way that I wanted it to be. The area that I'm painting right in that corner, they're not perfect leaves because there are going to be flowers there, some little raspberry buds. And I really just wanted to make sure that while my green paint was wet that I got a lot of variety into the leaves in terms of the colors, just for some visual interest, and as well because when you look at a leaf it's not perfectly one color. My raspberries, at first here I'm thinking that they might be a bit too pink, but as I go on I layer the colors in, and raspberries are kind of fun to paint because they're just little dots and they just get progressively less and less as you go down to the bottom. And when you're painting raspberries, you have to be careful that you don't go all the way down to a point to make it look really pointy, because then you kind of lose the raspberry shape to it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see in mine, there's a lot of white space in between the dots, and it just adds a little bit of interest. It adds just a marker in between the different dots so that you can tell that is a raspberry. And then what I'm doing is on one side, I'm adding more of that darker pink color, more of a maroon color, just to add some shading and a little bit of depth to the painting. And as I go through this painting and as I finish up with the different raspberries, I've been trying kind of different techniques. So with this one, I just, on the right hand side of the raspberry, I put this really bright pink, and then on the left hand side I did a very dark one, and I just dotted it on, and I really liked the way that that looked, so I kept doing that with my other raspberries, as you can see. And I thought it just looked really fun with it blurring together. And so it was, this painting was really more just me trying out a couple of different ways of drawing raspberries. I guess I was inspired by yesterday's raspberry or berry, love you very much drawing, and so I really wanted to kind of keep going with that theme, especially since it was gross and snowy outside. I really wanted something to make me feel like it was summery and warm. And I changed my mind halfway through the painting and decided to add in a little branch with a raspberry coming off of it, so that's what I'm painting here. I did do a quick little sketch with it, but yeah, I didn't love exactly how it was turning out, but kept rolling with it anyways. And then my battery kicked out, so that's why the painting jumps quite a bit there. I liked the scale of that branch with the raspberry on the top of it, and I'll add in the appropriate raspberry top after everything dries up. In this corner here are white flowers, and I have a lot of trouble doing paintings with white sections on them. I just, it's all about the shading, and I just haven't really practiced that much with my shading, so I think for some of these videos I'm going to try a little bit more of doing flowers or animals or just paintings that have a lot of white in the forefront and working on the shading instead of using something like a gouache or a white acrylic over top to create that white space. As I was finishing up here, I realized that there was a lot of space right where that new branch is going, and I didn't want to put in another raspberry because I thought that would be too many in a row. So I decided to add another branch onto my original twig, and I kind of hate that decision now that I'm looking back at it, but this is really just, I don't know, it was me really just doodling these raspberries as opposed to thinking of this being a framed piece that I would hang. It was, I don't know, just for fun for me anyways. So it was fun to do it even though I don't totally love the layout of everything. I think if I were to do something like this again, and I probably will revisit this type of painting again, like something that has a bit of a scientific drawing feel to it or scientific illustration. I think I would like to do something a little bit more planned out in future videos. But so far, I mean, I don't think it's the worst. I don't think it's the best, but it certainly was fun to do it. One thing that is really important when you're painting leaves is to add in a little bit of depth, and I think I would have maybe gone a little bit darker on some of these leaves with the stems and things like that, just for a little bit more depth. And then this one was like way too dark, and I tried to pull out some of the color, and it didn't work very well. But I think it's just good to have all of these different, light and dark values because it gives your image more of a 3D type look, or just that there's movement and that there's a realness to it in a way. I contemplated doing a dark outline around these, but I thought that it would just be a little bit more fun to leave it as it was. So this is it. This is the final piece for day 4, raspberries.